call to order the meeting of Mayor and Council. We want to thank everybody for being here. If you'll rise for the invocation. Holy God, blessed be your name. We just thank you for the opportunity to live in this wonderful city, in this wonderful place. We pray your blessing upon our meeting tonight and that you would grant us wisdom that only comes from you, that we would make wise decisions that would honor the people of this community. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. Okay, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay, you've all received the minutes from our meeting on July 13th. If there are no questions or comments, I'll accept the motion to receive the minutes.
Mr. Mayor?
Are you?
Yes,
I have a comment on the minutes as they are revised. And I would caution, before we go down the road of accepting the revised minutes, that we refrain from using transcripts into the meeting minutes, verbatim transcripts, because I think if we go down this road, then it opens up a Pandora's box where any council person or the mayor can insert verbatim remarks after the fact into the minutes. The minutes are made, these were not corrections to correct an omission or to correct something that was incorrectly stated in the minutes. I think that what can happen if we go down this road, that any council person from here on out can insert remarks that were made that are already recorded for posterity in YouTube, on YouTube and in the archives. And I think what happens is we're going to put an undue burden on staff, and what we'll end up with, quite possibly, is a transcript instead of meeting minutes, written. And I don't think that's the intent of the minutes. The minutes are supposed to be in a general description of the meeting, of what happened at the meeting. If someone is interested, the press or a private individual, they can go and look at the transcript or look at the meeting in its entirety. So if a motion's presented, then I'm in favor of accepting the meeting minutes as they were proposed and not revised.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second, or are there comments?
Yeah, I have a
Councilman
question.
King?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, Councilman Henderson, can you allude a little bit more on what you're referencing? Like,
Well,
based on the actual meeting versus the minutes from the meeting? Can you talk a little bit about
Well,
the difference?
the original meeting minutes made a reference to Councilman Santos' objection to a motion for the electric cycles, or they're not motorcycles, they're electric cycles. So his objection was duly noted, and it is recorded on YouTube and in the meeting minutes on our website. In order, and I understand his motivation that he wanted to be more clear, but the minutes were not incorrect. They were a general representation of the events of the meeting. So what would happen if we accept this precedent that anyone can ask that their full transcription of all the remarks of the meeting can be inserted, and in the opposite effect, a council person could demand that someone else's remarks be put in. And I don't think that's the intent of the meeting minutes. So that's, does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
I'm a little confused on you saying they're inserting. So are you saying that what we're approving is it's not verbatim, it's not what we talked about,
Well,
it's something being added?
According to my understanding, the red letter on the revision is verbatim.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Did you read the revised minutes?
It is, but I want to make sure there's no gray area that I'm completely.
Okay, just wanted to make sure
clear.
you
I
had
just wanna make
seen
sure.
them.
We're talking about inserting and excerpting and not, I just want to make sure.
We're not talking
Okay.
about taking anything out. We're just adding, he's adding his verbatim remarks. So, into meeting minutes where there's already a transcription for posterity of the actual meeting in audio and audio visual. So I just want to caution that we could undo, we could put an undue burden on the staff to go back and just type in the whole transcript of the meeting, potentially, if we go down this road.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilman Santos.
Yeah, whenever I read the past meetings, I thought that there was, they mentioned Councilman Santos went over the specs and looked at the positives and benefits of the motorcycles, and he was highly concerned over multiple safety aspects of the officers. And yes, but I wanted to make it go a little bit deeper and because this is not, I'm not just, the reason that I opposed it was because having these electric motorcycles carry the risk of injury or death, okay, not just, some safety. And I wanted to show that I did talk to other people that were, professionals, and I got their opinion. That's why I cited it. I just wanted to add more context as to why I voted no, and I didn't think that the way it was written before covered it. Also, I did speak with the city clerk, and I told her, what would you like me to go over and type up what I said, and I sent it over. She asked if, I believe she asked if I wanted it word for word or however, or if I wanted to write something in that paragraph. I told her it was up to them because they're the ones that do this more often. But I just wanted to, send them what I said. There was some stuff that were missing, and I thought some things were important.
Okay, Councilman McCoy.
To Council Henderson's point, I think it does set up not a dangerous, but just a precedent we may not want to go down. People coming back later on wanting to adjust things. And I think the point is valid, that the minutes they're an overview of what transpired. If people want to know word for word what happened, they have various methods to go see exactly what you said, whether it is on social media or the audio version. So I see what you're saying, but I think by accepting revised minutes now, we are setting ourselves up for allowing it moving forward.
Okay, if there's no other comment, I'll accept a motion on receiving the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the original draft of the meeting minutes from the July 13th meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second.
Okay, since we've had some conversation on this, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. All right. So it is 7:09. I apologize that we're late. We're going to go ahead and close our regular meeting and open up our public hearing. And I'll turn it over to our building official, Mr. Mike Bale.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Michael.
So there's just one item on tonight's public hearing, and that is for SASSDE LLC, doing business as Sunrise Motel. They're requesting a preliminary site plan review for a proposed addition of a 22-room building on the existing motel property to include utility extensions and site improvements located at 22512 Sussex Highway, tax map and parcel 331-3.00-180.00, zoned C2 Highway Commercial District. This is existing site. It was recently annexed into the city out on north of the city on Sussex Highway, Sunrise Motel. We did receive this copy of the preliminary site plan, and I do have a better picture next, but I'll go through what they're looking for here is a proposed 22-room structure to be built on the rear of the property, which would be on the left-hand side of that image. They have a paved parking lot with 46 spaces, and that is the amount required by the code for a hotel. And they're including utility extensions of water, sewer, and electric. The existing wells and the septic systems on the site will be abandoned and capped, and they do need approvals from the State Fire Marshal and DelDOT. This is a little zoomed-in picture there. The yellow square on the left, that's the proposed new building. It's a 2-story structure with 22 rooms in it, fully fire sprinklered. It'll have its own water and sewer connection, and they're going to connect the entire site to city water and sewer and electric. The L-shaped green building, that's the existing building as it is currently, with associated parking around the whole site.
Okay, are there any questions from council? Councilman Henderson?
Mike, is this plan substantially similar to the plan that they put forward during annexation request?
No, I believe it's been the same plan all along, as far as I could tell. Yeah,
Okay.
It's what I've seen from the start.
Now, could you go back to the other drawing there? There's, are those, I guess to the east of that drawing, is that future buildings or is that parking spaces? The little spaces there, looks like, it's not in yellow, but it looks like there's some, is that parking spaces? There's 5 spots there?
It's parking.
Parking? Okay. I didn't know if it was maybe a future plan for.
No, they don't show
more.
anything other than the existing and the proposed building on this and the parking. They don't have any room for anything else, honestly.
Okay, any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, Mr. Bailey. All right, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing at 7:12 and reopen our regular meeting.
Thank you. This is findings of facts for tonight's public hearing. The project is the Sunrise Motel preliminary site plan review. The owners are SASDE LLC. It's located at 22512 Sussex Highway, and that is tax parcel 331-3.00-180.00. Zoning is C2 Highway Commercial. They're providing 46 paved parking spaces, which is the number required by code, for a 22-room building located on the rear of the property. And they're going to extend city utilities, water, sewer, and electric to the property. And it requires approvals for the Office of State Fire Marshal and DelDOT. And Planning and Zoning did make a favorable recommendation at their July 1st meeting.
Okay, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, quick
Yes, sir.
point of order real quick. Is it SASS or SAS? It's showing up differently up here than it was in my agenda.
We need to clarify that. Mike, do you know the answer to that?
I believe it's SASDE.
SAS,
Yes. Right?
2 S's.
2 S's.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
sorry about that, yes.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
just want to clarify.
Good catch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that clarification, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to approve the request of SASS, DE, LLC, DBA, Sunrise Motel for a preliminary site plan approval for the proposed addition of a 22-room building on existing motel property, including utility extensions and site improvements located at 22512 Sussex Highway, tax map and parcel number 331-3.00-180.00, zoned C2 Highway Commercial District as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the motion? Well, if not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman McCoy?
Based on findings of facts.
Okay, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of fact.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman King?
Yes, based on finding of facts.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we're going to go a little backwards this time. We're going to go to correspondence. And as you guys remember, Eagle Scout project came through here from Jackson Whitaker. And if you haven't noticed, there's some of the pop-up libraries, I believe is what he's calling them, correct? It came back to me. So that, I know that we saw one the other night in Kiwanis Park. There's one here at City Hall. There's one out by the Jay's Nest.
Yep.
There's 5 or 6 of them.
There's several locations, Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
Yep. I think you've got most of them in town that we gave permission for.
So again, Jackson came here quite a while ago and presented this project. We've had several Eagle Scout projects come through here. The Jacksons worked hard, put a team together. These are very colorful and well done boxes. They really stand out, make you want to reopen the door and look in there. No Sports Illustrated, so you have to, but it was really well done. We're proud of Jackson and what he's done and allowed us to be a part of this project. After he graduates and moves on to Seaford Library, has offered to step in and fill these boxes up and keep them going. So it's nice to have a project, but also know there's a legacy that someone's going to jump in and do it. So we're happy to celebrate with Jackson and what he's done. So, okay, with that, we'll go to new business number 1 on the Seaford Development Associates.
Okay, so council has in their package a letter from Seaford Development Associates signed by David Perlmutter, and he is requesting an extension of the Seaford Town Center project phases 4 through 9. That approval will lapse on August 25th, 2021 without the 2-year extension. The building official has provided the picture that you see up there, which was the original approved site plan for their development. And they have worked through phase 1, 2, and 3. And phases 4 through 9 are everything that's basically west of Front and Market Streets, going up Pine Street, so on and so forth. He would like to keep this plan alive. This 2-year sunsetting is in accordance with our development approval process. Council has the authority to extend this approval should they desire to do that. If there are any questions, the building official is here. Mike or I can try to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do we know can you tell me the year that this plan was approved?
We looked it up today. Mike, would you mind?
I believe it was 2015 originally.
2015. And does Mr. Perlmutter believe that he'll actually start this project before the 2-year elapses? If we extend it for 2 years, does he believe he'll actually start this project before
I mean,
then?
I haven't had personal conversations. I don't
have
know.
not had that conversation with him either.
I know we have had a lot of conversations with him on what I'll call right now that he's working on phase 3, building 3. He's very focused on that and moving that forward. But as far as his timeline, he has not shared that with the city that I'm
No.
aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McCoy?
The August 25th, 2021 date, is that the original date, or have we had any previous extensions provided?
Yeah, there's been several.
I believe he's had a couple, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just the date that he cited. That corresponded with the information that we had.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from Councilman Santos?
Yeah, while we're on this topic, would you mind explain the preliminary plan that we're going to be approving to extend? Could you recover that?
This was before my time in this position too, but just some general knowledge of it. It's multiple projects. There's a multi-use building on the property of the old power plant, a hotel, some mixed-use retail and apartments on the properties on South Pine Street that were just recently demolished, and I believe a parking structure on Spring Street where that house was recently demolished behind the French Quarter.
His original plan on building 4, or is is that what that is for? On the Powerhouse site was to have a 4-story building with restaurants and retail on the first floor, a business on the second floor, and apartments/condos on floors 3 and 4.
Wow, that sounds awesome.
Well, back when this first came up, you got to remember we were entertaining Purdue Agribusiness moving here with 170 jobs, and this all was looking at that particular time to be a real opportunity. We had been in talks with Purdue for a year and a half at that point. They were, so this seemed like, and they wanted to be on the water. So this was starting to answer a lot of questions they needed answered, but that didn't come to be. He still wants to keep this plan alive. He still believes there's lots of value over there across the river, but he's focused, like city manager said, on getting buildings 3 and 4 up and done, and he's, about 30 days away from starting on building 3.
I would anticipate that, yes, sir.
Other questions, Councilman
It's
McCoy?
more so a comment. Just the natural way things are right now, a lot of materials, buildings included, are backed up. So while I don't mind extension, if we can have more thorough communication with Mr. Perlmutter to see what kind of delays are you getting on your end as far as materials and that kind of stuff, so we know. I want to hold guys to tighter timelines, but also be realistic the struggles that they're facing.
Can you walk through, maybe it'd be helpful for council to understand that these are lines on paper, really, at this
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. Yes, sir.
And what would happen if council chose not to extend? What would be the next course for Mr. Perlmutter, so they
So-
understand that?
All right, yes, sir. This is a preliminary plan approval, so anything that would come forward would need final plan approval. So there's a lot of work with the building department, fire marshal, the regular approval process. And as the mayor stated, he's 100% correct. This plan can change in its details. You know, the main building could be split into 2 buildings of smaller size. The hotel could change to a restaurant. Anything basically that's permitted in that zone. And as we move forward with Mr. Perlmutter and conditions change, we work with him on a case-by-case basis on those permits. Should council not agree to do this, the plan approval, the project would sunset. So it would no longer have approval. And when you grant approval, you give developers approval of critical water and sewer capacity, so on and so forth. So he would have to start back over with preliminary plan approval and come back through that process. So that's the downside of what he loses here, is that step in the approval process.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Councilman King?
Yep. So Charles, I mean, is it typical for the city not to give timelines? Like, is it just an open-ended, when you get to it, great? I mean, the city doesn't come in and say, hey, look, you know what, let's have a timeline, you should be here by this date, and this date.
Yeah, traditionally, the city does not, because this really, capitalism drives this project, okay? Absorption in our market in the commercial as well as retail space. We do not, when people come to us with development plans, we ask them routinely what their vision is, what their plan is, but due to economic factors, those plans can change, and we have yet, in development plans of this nature, to put a timeline. You have to get this built in 24 months. I will say, recently, council has done some approvals with the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee that have included what we provide them as far as incentives towards the project. Now, those go away within a specified period of time. And we try to, I believe the council's idea there is to try to incentivize them to, move it forward. But traditionally, we have not put timelines.
Right. Well, the reason I'm asking is that a lot of the demolition work, to me, was extremely painful. I sat there for a lot of years, and we had to really kind of have a lot of conversations of following back up, saying, hey, we need to get this done.
We did.
Where I think a timeline, if we implement that, saying, hey, if the project's not at this point by this date, then the expectation is this property is cleaned up by this date, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yes, sir. And what we did, as absolutely this council will recall, we worked with the developer in this case, and we offered him an incentive to tear those buildings down on a date certain. And he did come back and ask for one extension, but he did work with the building official and did get those buildings down, made a huge improvement.
Sure.
So those are some techniques where we work with those developers, and if we can help, we try to move these projects forward. This is a very large development in a very urban area of our city. This is a major investment. So it takes some time.
Other questions from council? Councilman Henderson?
Just a comment, just, you know, the other risk of not granting the extension is that Fisher Architects provides very valuable service, and that it comes at some expense. If we were to fail to grant the extension, then Seaford Development Associates would have to go through an extraordinary amount of expense. And that would be kind of punitive and not at all really a gesture of goodwill towards them as far as furthering the development, because it would hinder them even further.
Right.
So I think, you know, I'm in favor of it. I'd like to see it happen quickly.
Tomorrow.
Over the past 6 years, I mean, it was very ambitious. It was a, you know, you eat an elephant one bite at a time, but he's overcoming some serious headwinds in the last year and a half with building 3 and 4. So I'm inclined to grant him some leeway to move west. I mean, even in light of the fact that developments happen downtown regardless of whether he's been doing it or not. I mean, there's been incredible successes downtown. And I'm sure that he's hoping to be able to capitalize on that as well when the time comes.
Okay, if there are no other questions or comments, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make the motion to approve the request of Seaford Development Associates, LLC, to send the preliminary plan approval for the Seaford Town Center project, phases 4 through 9, set to expire on August 25th, 2021, for 2 additional years until August 25th, 2023, as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Santos. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Okay, it's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, next we have the sale of some Seaford-owned land,
Yes.
city-owned land.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Economic Development Director was approached by one of the Ross Business Park tenants, Mr. Kent Peterson, who is currently developing the East Park Business Center. It's shown there in your package, highlighted in yellow. The Director of Public Works recently finished the extension of Venture Drive, basically to the end where it needs to go to accommodate the development there. And there's that small spot, I'm sorry it's so small there, but it's 80 by 80 basically, at the very end of Venture Drive. The paving ends, it's grass. And through that area runs water, sewer, electric, primary electric, and there's electric lights that run through the street lights. Mr. Peterson approached us. We met out there. He asked if there would be interest in the city selling that piece of land, that very small piece of land. It is, if you look at his development plan, there would be a building that would be built along that eastern property line, and so it would be kind of side yard for him. And his comment to us was he could use that as a fenced-in yard, truck parking, things of that nature for a tenant that he might have in that speculative building he plans on building. We ran it through our directors, through our electric director, our public works director, our parks staff, to make sure there was no issues. And as long as we give an easement back to ourselves before we transfer this piece of land, there was no problems presented by staff. The upside to this, should we decide to sell it, is we don't have to maintain the grass. It would be combined with his parcel. That sliver of land cannot stand as its own lot. It has very little utility to the city of Seaford other than cutting the grass. There can be no real road extension. That property line there actually is the division between 2 zones, M1 zone and R3 zone. So we don't ever desire in any of our planning to extend that road through. We didn't want truck traffic cutting through the residential area or anything like that. So in working with the Director of Economic Development, the property owner made an offer for the property, and he is offering the city the same price he paid for the larger parcel, which he purchased several years ago. And that price for the 0.15 acres would be a total price for that sliver of land, 6,400 square feet. He's offering $2,534.40. So we did include a draft agreement of sale with all the particulars in it, and should council decide to execute this sale or move forward with this sale, the mayor would then execute the agreement of sale, and we would work backwards with the property owner to get the surveys, all the particulars needed for closing. The potential prospective buyer, did agree to pay for all the legal work, surveys, all that was necessary, so that the city didn't have any money out of pocket on this.
Any questions from council in regards to the sale of this? Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Charles, I guess the question I have is, typically when the city of Seaford sells something, right, so we sell a piece of equipment or we do something, we put it out on a bid process, if I understood that correctly. Typically, right?
The disposal of equipment, yes, sir,
Yeah.
we do. The sale of land, specifically in the industrial park, we have used the land sale as an incentive for jobs creation and investment and development. So, no. And we did try at one point 2 years ago to list all this property with a real estate agent, and they did some marketing, so on and so forth. Just so happens, the only land that the real estate agent sold during that period was this piece of land. So we paid commission on this piece of land when we sold it. But no, sir, we do not offer our land for general sale or anything like that. We market it.
So we don't, you wouldn't open this up for potential other people in our community that may have interest in
Well,
purchasing it?
I mean, I go back to this piece of land has no real value. It's not a lot. It doesn't meet the requirements for a lot size. The minimum lot size in that zone is 2 acres, and it has to have certain dimensions. This does not have that. If it's not combined with an adjacent lot, it can only be right of way, which we would own.
So what is the property in front of it? Like when you look at the 309.29, what property is there?
Okay, so that would be to the, trying to get my bearings, that would be to the south. That is more of Better Homes of Seaford project. I believe it's Williamsburg Manor was that phase. So all those numbers around it to the right of the page and to the bottom of the page there, those are all fourplexes. There's a large building there. It's all elderly
No,
housing.
but my point being there's other property that butts up to what we're selling or potentially selling to this investor.
Yeah, so you could potentially combine it with Better Homes of Seaford's lot as a matter of fact, but it's different zones, and it has no utility for them. It wouldn't do anything for them.
Sure.
I don't know that they would express any interest, but yes, we did not reach out to Better Homes in Seaford and say, hey.
Well, I guess my question being is when we don't open this up, right? We don't open this up to the public and say, hey, this is potentially what we'd like to do. Is there any other interest? I mean, we would never know. It's all kind of maybe after the fact, right?
Yeah, one concern I would have about this, let's just run that down. Let's say we opened it up to the public and someone said, yeah, I'll buy it. We can't subdivide it and transfer it to anybody except an adjacent property owner, because it's not a standalone lot. So if we did it, it would be illegal in accordance with our zoning, and then you'd have someone who owns this sliver of land kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So I would be concerned. I wouldn't recommend we do it that way just because of the problems it could create.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank
It
you.
would be just an odd piece of land.
Got it?
Appreciate it. Yep, thanks.
Any other, Councilman Henderson?
Yeah, more to Councilman King's point, I mean, if it was opened up to someone else, it would be a speculation, and then it would put leverage between those two owners for no real reason. We've given away more land than that to other people. Lank Johnson and Tall, for instance, on the corner of Venture Drive and North Market Street. We gave away parcels larger than that to the Seaford Historical Society in order to make Ross Station possible, because they needed a driveway. So to have someone come to us and say they want to buy a little sliver of land is really quite extraordinary, because it's useless to the city. So I like the idea. I'm happy that Venture Park East, or what's the name of it?
East Park Business Center.
Okay, East Park.
Yes, sir.
Made the offer, because it,
Stranded property.
Parks and Recreation don't have to go down there and mow it in perpetuity.
Yeah, and if I could, if you don't mind, I'm gonna follow back up to Councilman Henderson's comment. I never at any point alluded to the fact that I wasn't in support of it. A lot of the questions that I allude to is a lot of people are watching, so a lot of people don't have the luxury of having the information in front of them like I do. So a lot of the times me asking questions is just bring awareness and understanding to the people that may not have the same ability as we do.
Yeah, likewise myself, yes.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, any, Councilman Santos?
Yes. Charles, what did you say this property was owned, that sliver of land?
M1.
M1?
Yep.
So, and they cannot build a 60 by 60 building there? No?
No, sir, they cannot. It doesn't, well, let me qualify that. We'll go real deep, I guess, here.
'Cause,
So let's say it was a standalone lot. We allowed it to be subdivided. Someone could come in potentially and request a variance to build something very small that likely wouldn't meet your setbacks. It would be built over top of our water and sewer if we were to permit that. And again, I go to the realm of, I guess, anything can be done. This likely, though, no, sir, it could not be built on and meet any kind of code or requirement that the city has.
okay, because I thought with commercial properties, you could build up pretty much up to your land.
What your lot line, what you're thinking of, and you're correct, in the C1 zone and portions of the C3 zone, the zone we sit in now, because a lot of those buildings were built to the property line. So the council at that time did not want to harm any existing properties or make them non-conforming to the extent they could. But in this zone, in M1 zone, there are setbacks. You are not allowed to build to the property line without a variance.
So, okay, so then there's no possibility of them building anything and bringing in more jobs right there. So if they're trying to just add a little bit of piece of land to their already existing land, and if that's the case, I really do think we should reach out to those properties that are adjacent to this piece of land and give them the same opportunity. And also, they're coming in with a price that's, going back a couple years ago. The properties have risen and since then. And normally, whenever you buy a piece of land, if you buy a lot of land, you get it for cheaper. By the acreage, and when you buy a smaller piece of land, you pay more. So I'm not saying that we should put a price, but I think that we should give the opportunity to those people that are around to, make an offer if they so choose to, because who knows, maybe the people who says here 513, maybe they want to buy that piece of land, have a bigger yard. They can also fence it, and they can also put whatever it is they would choose to.
If I'm correct, those are not homeowners.
No, sir,
They're
you are
not.
correct.
Okay.
They're in a assisted living facility,
Elderly housing.
elderly housing.
And
Thank you, Tracy.
I'm sorry? Senior housing.
That is the correct
Yeah,
description.
so they're
It's
leasing,
owned by one
renting.
person, and they're renting the property through a subsidy.
but someone or some entity owns that.
Better
so
homes, right. the
that
ones-
that's what either way I think that they should also have the opportunity to make a bid if they so choose to, because it's you guys are receiving an offer for 2,500, give or take. That's very, very low.
Well, and I don't want to offer too much, I guess, or go down this road, but we did not, when we sold that piece of land, we did not sell it at the going rate for real estate at the time. Again, we used the price of that land as an incentive for investment, and the property owner is investing. Additionally, that piece of land surveyed, I'm speaking from the top of my head, surveyed out about 9 acres of land, and when we surveyed out and subtracted the wetlands and the non-usable pieces, the actual buildable area was quite smaller. So we actually took that into account when council set and approved the price to be paid. So when you look at that raw number, there were a lot of factors that went into that number at that time that were considered by the council.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
I have just one. Just one.
Councilman King?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Charles, if we look at the property line, it runs across that Better Homes at 30929.
Yes, sir.
And you look at the property that's outlined, the gentleman that inquired or had the intention of buying this. Is that open, well, to the right and left of what we're selling? Is that city-owned property to the right or left of that?
We used to own some of it to the
So the 6 point
to the right-hand side. Parcel 4.25, do you see that number?
Yep.
We sold that to Better Homes of Seaford.
Okay.
It's pretty much fully developed. There's a very large building on it with 36 units of as David stated, senior housing.
Hampton Circle?
Hampton Circle is, yes, sir, thank you. To the bottom of the page there, those small numbers that you see there, those are fourplexes. And there's, I believe in that phase, there's 90 units. It's completely built out. There's, around the perimeter of the property is stormwater management, ditching, all the utilities are in. I mean, I don't know what they do with it, but certainly we did not speak with them. They might have I don't know, they might have some use. But we would not allow them to construct anything over our water and sewer and electric lines that are there. I wouldn't recommend that we do.
Councilman Santos?
Yeah, would it be possible to pull up a map where you can get a satellite view instead of, I think it might help the rest of council.
I'd have to defer to our IT folks if we could pull up Google Earth.
Put Gary on the spot.
We're putting Gary on the spot.
There we are.
Venture Drive, Seaford,
Yeah, Sussex County would.
Test your knowledge.
Is there a shot clock?
Well, Gary can do it.
No doubt.
Gary's the man, he's got
Yeah.
it.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
while we're waiting for Gary, I have a question for Charles.
Yes, sir.
If Better Homes of Seaford did purchase M1 land, I mean, they would have to go for a zoning change?
Again, yeah, there'd be something. We'd have to really look at it. You try not to put jurisdictional boundaries through property boundaries, which you would then create if you did that. Yeah, there's a lot, excuse me, I've got the hiccups. There's a lot of pitfalls there with those subdivisions, those zonings. And the zoning ordinance requires buffering and things of that nature, so, if you did that, I'm not sure how it would really work.
And so they wouldn't need a special variance or something to go in and fence all that off and use that?
They likely would need several variances to do anything at all with it, yeah. And see, that's where we as the city, try not to sell people land that needs variances that we then have to issue.
Right.
It just puts you in a tough spot.
But if he purchased that and wanted to utilize that, then we would have to issue some type of variance for that property.
It's very likely, Councilman, I can't swear to you that there's something they could do without a variance, not knowing what their
How
proposals are.
about fencing it off? They need a variance to fence it off and park
Yeah,
equipment out there?
we would have to talk with them because we need access to the water and sewer should a problem occur. We could probably work out fencing with them, but we would need access to it. That is right there.
So what would
That's
be
a
the
pretty
desire
old-
to purchase it then if you can't do anything with it? What's the purpose of purchasing it?
Okay, so East Park Business Center can use this as his side yard area with our approval. And he can park, like if he has a contractor in there, they can use that end of that street for parking vehicles and things of that nature. We can make an approval with some access provisions to have him fence that in.
And has that been discussed with him?
Yes, sir. That's his idea. Yes, sir. And we told him, really, you can't build a structure or anything like that. He said, that's fine. It's just basically the side yard. And when that building's built there, it almost looked like it's his side yard. And it's a dead-end road that'll basically go into, in essence, a storage area. But yeah, as Councilman Santos was talking, I mean, you can see the units, you know, to the east and to the south. You know, those are pretty well fully developed currently.
And can you allude to the property that's in discussion?
Yeah, it's that farmed area. Thank you for tracing that out, Tracy.
Right there.
So, yeah, it's basically the farmed area, but what you're looking at in your package goes into those woods because that's a branch that runs through there, drops off quite drastically, 12, 15 feet in some areas to the branch, and it's got wetlands in it. So he couldn't build on the entire lot. That's why when council looked at it, we surveyed the uplands, and the uplands were much less than the entire lot, and we negotiated the price. I'll add to this discussion that once he combines this piece, should council proceed with this, with his lot, it would give him a little bit more square footage by our calculation that he could do with lot coverage. So he could better maximize the construction of his property. But that is infinitesimal. It's very few square feet, but it combines with his property and gives him the ability to do something. It doesn't just create a variance as it would with some of the other properties.
It would count towards his pervious surface.
Sure.
Right.
That would be to his benefit.
It would,
Right.
yes, sir.
Right.
That's why it has utility to him, and likely only him, but
Right. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to accept the offer to purchase a portion of city-owned property, Census count, SCTMP number 331-5.00-4.00, located at the end of Venture Drive and Ross Business Park, and to permit Mayor Genshaw to execute the agreement of sale and other related property transfer and closing documents as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I think he has a question.
You have a
Mr.
question
Mayor,
on the motion?
I'm still, if we're going on a vote, I still think that we should wait and provide someone else to.
Right, okay, so what you would do then, you would vote no to this motion, okay? And then we would go from there, but right now we have a motion on the table. So Councilman Henderson?
As a point of order, I think that the councilman has a right to devise his own motion, and then we'll have two motions on the floor. And then we look for a second for his or a second for the other.
Okay?
I-
I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's the
I
correct
think
order of
that's part
things.
I don't know what Robert's rule
I have
says
to get my
about that,
book
but I
out,
think
yeah.
a motion
But
can be counted.
I'm happy to do it that way. Either way, we end up with two motions. We'll get a second out of either one. Okay, so Jose, if you would, Councilman Santos, if you would like to propose a motion,
Give me 1 second, please.
okay?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
would he make a motion, a second motion, or would he make a motion to table?
This will be a completely separate motion based on whatever
Not
he
to table
chooses
it
to make.
based on,
He can make whatever motion
Okay.
he chooses to
but that
make.
is an option for him as well, right?
That is an
Okay.
option, right. Either way, he would need a second.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, guys. Okay.
Councilman Santos, did you want to propose a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to make a motion that the city of Seaford send out a notice to the adjacent property owners of tax parcel number 331-5.00-4.00 that this property is going to be sold, and see if they have an interest in making an offer as well.
Okay. I'm really not sure this is the right way to do this, but we're gonna play this out. So now we have two motions on the table. So I need a second on a motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman King. I would make the motion by Councilman Jose Santos.
Okay, so we have a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
No.
Councilman Holland?
Nay.
Councilman McCoy?
No.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Okay, so that motion was defeated. We had another motion on the table. Is there a second on that motion?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, we will do a roll call vote on that. Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman King?
No.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
No.
Okay, so it passes. All right, thank you. All right, next we go into old business. The
So-
municipal election is, Tracy's not coming up to explain anything? You're going to explain, okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, the city clerk did try to work with the Department of Elections with Sussex County Office to receive this municipal election support agreement. We have not received a copy of that as of yet, so the
Okay.
request from the city clerk is to table it one
Okay.
more time.
We will need a motion from council for that, so I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Henderson. I make a motion to table until the August 10th, 2021 city council meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, it's unanimous. All right, reminders of meetings.
We have one, which is the Employee Appreciation Event at Vanderwyn Acres, August 27th at 6 p.m. Hope everyone can attend.
All right, okay, we'll start with committee reports with administration and IT. Councilman Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. City and staff met with representatives of the state revolving loan fund program to discuss financing options of the Route 13 North Sewer expansion. They met with KRM officials regarding M1 zone changes and covenant restrictions for WSBC. They attended the DMEC board meeting in person for the first time in a while. They met with the pension plan fund managers about annual performance. They attended the City Police Academy graduation, and they attended the Parks Department Appreciation Luncheon. They participated in the opioid litigation settlement meeting. And the IT department, they've been configuring equipment for command vehicles, the servers for video, new switch and Cradle Point modem. And we are going to mediation with the Teamsters on August 19th. The rest is routine, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Next we have police and fire. Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief John Wilson of the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department reports that as of July 26th, there have been 520 fire responses to date. 76 calls for July so far, and that's an average of 2.9 calls per day for July. Under EMS responses, there's been 2,136 calls to date as of July 26th, and 282 calls for July 21 for an average of 10.8 calls per day. So that, for the fire department, there's a 2,656 total responses for 2021 so far, for an average response of 12.8 calls per day. 12.8 calls per day for the year. Under significant alarms, on July 18th, the department assisted Station 72 Bridgeville for a large wood and brush fire. And all apparatus is currently in service. The chief reports that the new ambulance B87 is looking great, and the committee is setting up their plan to travel to Florida for final inspection. And this sounds like a broken record, but the volunteer fire department is facing staffing shortages for EMTs. The fire department is developing plans to meet the future needs. And to add salt to that wound, we're losing a full-time employee, EMT. He's leaving for the resort community, Ocean City, but he will be remaining on part-time duty. Under training, on July 21st, there was a training class which called Smoke Signals Size Up, which is a training class on how to size up smoke in a fire, the type, color, the behavior of smoke emanating from a structure or from a vehicle to determine the level of hazard and the way to attack it. There were 20 members present, and the next training is scheduled for August 18th. Under events, the department met with Pastor Miguel from the Salvation Army to discuss how the Salvation Army can assist them in the future. And on July 20th, Tower 87 was at the Veteran Cemetery in Millsboro for the funeral of Joe Toon. And on the 24th, Tower 87 was once again flying a flag for former Seaford police officer Ernie Lyons at the funeral on Shipley Street. Under the Seaford Police Department, you'll see a chart there with totals of all crimes dating back, crimes to date dating back to 2018. There were a total of 222 criminal complaints, and you can see the number and distribution there with an 87% rate. The chart shows you the peaks of the days of the week and times of day that these events occurred. There were a total of 6 drug crimes, and you can see the distribution there. Under traffic, there were 248 total traffic contacts with 48 citations and 14 warnings issued with 1 DUI. There were 26 reported crashes, 4 of which were injury involved. And you can see in the crime view chart, you can see the distribution of the number of accidents and time of day. There are a number of significant events that happened, but I can just give a comment from the chief that there is more violence that's occurring. We've had some gun violence in town and reported shots fired. Some of it was substantiated, some of it wasn't. But it is an issue that the department is dealing with. Under administration on July 15th, the department completed its final grant report for the body-worn cameras, and the chief attended the signing of House Bill 195, which includes body-worn cameras, by the governor. And on the 22nd, the chief met with the Delaware State Police regarding the diversion program that would apply resources to divert some drug crimes and some other issues to a rehabilitation program rather than prosecution. And under training on July 14th, Detective James attended a sex crimes investigations at the Delaware State Police Academy. There are other remarks in the report. However, I'll be respectful of your time and conclude my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Code, Parks and Rec. Councilman Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Start off with code. Random inspections are steadily being scheduled. 767 have been completed. Water has been connected at Wawa. Work is ongoing on the inside of the store. Walls are framed up for the first 2 buildings at Melanie Ridge. And East Park Business Center is in the process of designing the second building. Sewer work is completed, and last section of water is being installed. Third classroom at Montessori School is insulated with drywall going in, and Del Dot is working on the entrance. And all the work is routine, and we'll switch over to Parks and Recs. We have 25 kids that attend the first night of youth tennis. They completed the online registration link for youth football and youth soccer for fall. Contacted former youth flag football and soccer for upcoming season. Have 8 teams interested in men's slow pitch league, currently working on umpires and other logistics. 2 Sussex Academy students have volunteered for trash pickup and painting at Riverview Park Pavilion. And they just celebrated the National Parks and Recreation Month with a luncheon held on 7/23. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Electric. Councilman McCoy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report's been submitted in its entirety. I'll hit a few highlights. Since the last report, in regards to the crew, Tyler Sewell and Nick Moore both took the flagging class. Nick Smart completed week 6 of 8 in the lineman training, and we have a new employee, Mr. Dylan Calloway. So excited to see him kicking the gear here with the team. So far, so good. Making friends over there. So they also trimmed trees, moved the parklet, and moved the pole and secondary wire in Gateway Park for the TAP project. In regards to our director, had his standardized director's meeting, staff meeting, and council liaison meeting. Had 2 Zoom meetings with DMEC about their new training center. Had a meeting with Verizon and Comcast about Martin Farms. He also met with the general contractor for Amazon. Over the course of the next few weeks, the plan is to help Blades drill some holes in their park and playground, continue working at Wawa to run the loop feed to the front pole line, continue working in Bel Air multifamily, and add a second transformer at Eastern Shore Metals. Again, there's a few more things in the report, but the report has been submitted in its entirety.
Okay, thank you very much. Public Works, Wastewater. Councilman King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My report has been submitted in its entirety. I'm just going to hit some of the bullet points, some of the high-value activities going on through our community. Before I get into that, I'm going to start with the Public Works Department. Team's working extremely hard. I have people out on vacation and one out on medical. Now, with that being said, they had to postpone the painting of the curbs. They're having problems getting the paint in. The Montessori School entrance project is ongoing. The team's out spraying weeds, helping, partnering with the code department, cleaning up properties. Of course, summertime's here and the demand for water is high, and so putting a lot of strain on our system. So with that being said, they had to repair 3 of the water services in Bel Air. They had to replace the water leak on Penn Avenue. They had to spend some time getting the dirt out of the sewer main at Mearsfield, replace the flow to Governor's Grant, out helping fill potholes, and then of course they're doing all of their routine tasks. I'll jump over to the wastewater treatment facility, receiving all flow from Bridgeville and Greenwood. The plant performance remains good, and some of the projects coming up over the next 2 weeks, they want to repair the water leak on Cannon near High. They want to work the cut-in valve to the West Seaford Elementary School. And they want to continue to repair the cleanouts on the smoke testing list, and the replacement of fire hydrants is ongoing. And with that, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. I do, in closing, just want to send our thanks out to our police department, to our chief, and to Officer Bradley for putting on the Citizens Academy. Again, that was always well received by our community, and the folks that attend that really do seem to love it. So I appreciate all those of you that could make it to that. With that, I'll accept a motion to go into executive session.
So
Mr.
moved.
Mr. Mayor, I make that motion.
You have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, case no. Thank you.